got a lot to talk about today, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, look at this awesome UFO video shared by Steph Kent. This was taken in Australia. You can see this smeary trail it's leaving behind it. It's blinking on and off. It looks like it might be a kind of a green color. Of course, you never know how cameras are interpreting these things, but this is just a fantastic UFO sighting. I don't think this can be explained by a bird or a drone or anything, mundane that I can think of. This looks like a really solid sighting of a genuinely anomalous craft of some sort. Is it a plasma vessel? Is it a nuts and bolts craft with an energy field around it? What is going on with this? I think it's probably safe to say it's green. This green orb looking thing. What do you think? And what sort of propulsion or field that these craft generate seems to cause the smeary trail that so many of them leave behind. They aren't, rocket operated. They're not, pushing gas out of one end and driving themselves forward with the other. So they don't leave like a contrail like, we think of as rockets or planes would leave. So how exactly are these things operating that do seem to leave these trails behind them? I'd love to know your thoughts about that in the comments below. And thank you, Steph Kent, for sharing that awesome video. Meanwhile, Ross Coulthart is addressing whether or not the Tic Tac is Lockheed-Martin technology. I guess he's been getting a lot of pushback on this. So, of course, he's addressing that, or meeting it head on. I really admire him for that. And here's what he had to say after a question is asked him by one of his viewers.
That's a good question. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know for sure. I have been told previously that when Tic Tacs, you see, one of the other things I want to clarify here as well is there are NHI Tic Tacs. A lot of people seem to be thinking that I'm suggesting that all Tic Tacs are Lockheed-Martin. That's not the case at all. What I was told, and I'm reasonably sure that this is the case, is that the Tic Tac was being operated by Lockheed-Martin. And it's conceivable that that was being operated neuromeditatively, psionically, by a human psionic, which is what I understand is the way that these retrieved non-human craft are being operated. It's not clear to me, though, whether this is a craft that was built by Lockheed-Martin or whether it is Lockheed-Martin testing the use of neuromeditative signaling, as our friends at Skywatcher call it, to operate one of these craft. I just can't answer that question specifically. All I can do is tell you what I've been told by my multiple sources, which is that the operation of the Tic Tac was being controlled on the day by Lockheed-Martin. Now, I want to say here, let's be really clear about this, there is always the possibility that sources that talk to a journalist like me may be malign. They may indeed be running some kind of psyop. And of course, I've taken that into consideration in asking the question. The difficulty is I can't go into the detail for very obvious reasons about who these sources are and why I think so strongly that those sources are telling me the truth. And I can tell you there are a lot of people who are assuring me that I'm flat wrong. And that's fine, but let's have a discussion about this.
Okay, well, fair enough, Ross. Let's have a discussion about it. So let me know what you think. Are you satisfied by Ross's explanation here? This idea that the Tic Tac may or may not be man-made, but it was operated perhaps psychically by operatives of Lockheed-Martin. Does that ring true to you? I've talked about this multiple times. We're not just talking about one craft here. We're talking about possibly 100 of these craft over the course of a week, interacting with a larger craft in the water, going, at the end of the week, the fleet going in the direction of Catalina Island, which is a hotbed of UFO activity for a long time. So whatever the Tic Tacs are, they are mixed up in all of that. and they also seem to correspond to a larger pattern of UFO UAP behavior, like the flying pyramids that were over the U.S. warships, the swarms of orbs that were over another fleet of U.S. warships, potentially even the mystery drones congregating around U.S. military installations. Now they're all over the world. They're shutting down airports all over the world, but they are particularly interested in U.S. military installations. So it seems to me all part of a larger pattern. So if we are to believe that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin, it's not a big stretch to imagine that all that other stuff has some connection to Lockheed Martin as well. That's a stretch too far for me. I don't buy that. Now you could say again that the Lockheed Martin, that the Tic Tac could be Lockheed Martin, and the flying pyramids could be Boeing, and etc. But it's all part of a larger pattern somehow. So I'm not there with Ross's explanation. It doesn't quite make sense to me. I don't know how all of the pieces would fit together in that scenario. Now, maybe there is a scenario where that makes sense to you, and let me know what you think about that. Ross is very confident of his sources. He says he does not believe that he is being fed disinfo. So, yeah, again, let me know what you think about that. This is what Richard Dolan had to say about the possibility of the Tic Tac being Lockheed Martin.
But the problem is what we saw the Tic Tac do, that is instant acceleration, seamless control, no heat, no sound, transmedium movement. As far as what we have ever seen electrogravitics do, this goes beyond this. This is not just propulsion. We're talking some level of space-time level engineering. Now, if someone cracked that, okay, fair enough. You have to ask, why test it like this in front of Navy pilots with no coordination, no debrief? Why infiltrate a secure cap point transmitted over encrypted comms? Like, who authorized that? If that was Lockheed Martin acting alone, that's insane. If the Navy was involved, you want to ask, who signed off on that? This is why the whole explanation of it's just advanced tech doesn't really resolve anything, because if it is ours, we're looking, first of all, at a civilizational leap, and one that's being hidden in plain sight with no accountability. And maybe that is the case. I'm not saying this cannot be human, but if you're going to say that, let's show your homework, because
Yeah, I like that. I would love to see Ross's homework on this. Of course, he can't provide it because it's confidential sources, which is frustrating. I mean, it's understandable, but it is a frustrating situation where we have such a otherwise reliable, hopefully, reporter in Ross Coulthart who has brought forward wonderful whistleblowers like David Grush and Jake Barber and others. And he has, this font of awesome information. But here he goes and says the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin, which on the face of it doesn't make a lot of sense. Even if it's just psychically operated by Lockheed Martin, that just doesn't make a lot of sense unless he can show his homework and show us how it does make sense. It's really hard to get on board with. So, again, let me know your thoughts on all of that. So let's segue to a different topic because I'm still trying to gather my own thoughts on how any of that can make sense. So help me figure it out, guys. Let me know what you think. But meanwhile, Undercover ET UK interviewed Eddie Abbott, who's an experiencer, has a lot of really intriguing things to say, among which he has an explanation for cattle mutilations that ties in with the alien abductions and the hybridization project. Some of you may have heard this explanation before, but I thought this was really intriguing. So let's give a listen.
Right?
No.
And then cattle. So
Yes.
you got all these cattle mutilations, and I don't know how many people want to talk about this, but Linda Moulton Howe got a little scared. She's the cattle mutilation lady. She's the one that started all this cattle mutilation investigation, and I told her flat out, Linda, they're growing embryos in the cattle. They take the embryos when they abduct these women and they implant them in a cow. Why? Because the cow is who's going to look in a goddamn cow, right? It's very safe.
Sure.
Multiple stomachs, constant healthy food intake, the embryo will do fine. But when the embryo gets to a certain point, it cannot remain in the cow. So they come, they suck that cow right up, whatever the hell that particle crap they use is. They get
Wow.
it up, they surgically remove the fetus.
Yeah.
Then they implant it in the laboratory. But it's not just good enough to put it in the laboratory. You need certain glands and certain parts of this animal that it was growing in to continue the nutrients that
Sure.
need to develop this
And
creature
that's
that
why then we're getting slices and dices off animals.
laser cut. They're removing all the same
Perfect.
parts.
Yeah.
Whatever they found in these eyeballs and the glands in the mouth, that they take the whole rectum, the anus, because they take the whole uterus. Right? There's no blood. They need the blood.
Okay, that's an interesting idea, and he has evidently gained this information from his contact and his own abduction experiences. I guess that's as good as an explanation as I've heard for cattle mutilations. Now, it's important to understand that many female abductees or contactees who have been part of the hybridization program, they will often have missing pregnancies. They will, apparently be impregnated by a, hybrid fetus. And after 6 weeks or sometimes longer, the pregnancy will vanish as if the hybrid fetus was removed and taken somewhere. I had imagined it was taken aboard the ship and raised there, grown in some vat or something. Could it have been transported from the human female into a cattle to continue growing? Does that make sense? I mean, again, I haven't heard a better explanation for this, for the cattle mutilation. However, okay, the cattle mutilation is just one aspect of a much larger phenomenon. Mutilations have occurred in sheep and horses, even dogs and cats and birds and stuff. So I'm not quite satisfied by the overall explanation of mutilations because of that. But it is an intriguing idea, and it does kind of line up with some stuff. I can definitely imagine a scenario where that makes sense, at least for the cattle mutilation aspect of it. But that doesn't explain all the other mutilations. And this has been going on for hundreds of years. The earliest known mutilation occurred in the London area in like 1604, and it involved sheep. In one particular incident, over 100 sheep were killed at once. And it was the same kind of thing. The meat wasn't taken, the fleece wasn't taken, just certain organs and glands and so on were removed. What does that mean? I don't think that humans were raised, grown in the wombs of those sheep. But hey, I could be wrong. But yeah, again, I'm not quite satisfied by that explanation, but it's an intriguing explanation. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. I did want to get into another experiencer account because this is from 1917. This is before Betty and Barney Hill. This isn't even in America. This is in Finland in 1917, as related by Preston Dennett. So before the modern, narrative of alien abductions, was understood by many people throughout the world. Before they had that to draw on, this individual had her own experience, and I'll let Preston relate it.
Local villagers assumed that she had gone to visit her daughter, but upon her return, Annie said that no, she had actually been taken into a craft by strange beings. According to Annie, she was walking to her home, carrying a load of wood through the snow, and this is when her encounter began. She saw this craft. As Annie says, I spotted it just before dusk. It stood there as if it were part of the forest, yet it did not come from it. A huge metal bowl, like an upside-down sink, gleamed silently by the lakeshore. The air was still. The birds were silent. So Annie describes this object as metallic, huge, with a very smooth surface, kind of reminding her of a gigantic wash basin or a soup plate. She said it landed right next to her cottage. She could see a thin metal ladder extending from the bottom of the machine, and coming down this ladder were short little figures, no more than waist high, she said, with long arms and shiny eyes, moving in a strange way. She didn't really describe them any further than that. But again, at this time, UFOs and visitors from other planets were not really part of the public consciousness, so this never crossed her mind. But it was clear to her that these beings were not human. So she told herself, "Devils, they've come for me." Now weirdly, she felt no fear at first, just a strange silence. Then one of the beings raised its hand and pointed at her, and she heard a voice in her head saying, "Come on." And her legs, she said, seemed to move of their own will, and she found herself involuntarily walking towards the craft.
Okay, I'll let you listen to the full experience at your leisure on Preston's channel, and of course I'll provide the link to it. Really interesting stuff, but the beings take her in the ship and they fly her around all over the planet, take her into space, show her some stuff, and then she winds up home. And she is told by her, her local village, neighbors that it must be a demonic experience or, these were devils of some sort. And she doesn't have a frame of reference for alien abductions, and so she kind of buys into that. So I think this is a really important encounter or, experience, because a lot of people think that Betty and Barney Hill provided like a template for a lot of experiencers to build on and, confabulate their own experiences. But this woman was having a very similar experience, minus some of the gory details, in 1917 in Finland. Meanwhile, Eric Burleson gives us an update on what we can expect from Congress other than the UFO hearing, which should come theoretically soon. We'll see. But here he is talking about the UAP disclosure amendment and also about the possibility of Trump providing disclosure.
Donald Trump also gives us a little bit of hope because he's the one doing the disclosing. He's a very transparent president. He doesn't hold anything back, and he wants the American people to be in charge. I think there's hope that when we get through all the budgetary issues that we're facing with reconciliation, we can talk to Donald Trump and get his approval for disclosure. Would you be successful? I don't know yet. We have another option. We're creating or expanding the National Defense Reauthorization Act, a bill that requires disclosure.
Okay, he doesn't go into the weeds on that, but Mike Rounds has talked about reintroducing the Schumer-Rounds or the Rounds-Schumer Amendment, the UAP Disclosure Amendment, into the next NDAA, and it looks like he's going to have some support in the House of Representatives when that happens. Hopefully it won't get neutered again if they're able to get it off the ground. Hopefully we can get a robust version of the UAP Disclosure Amendment passed and signed into law. Wouldn't that be amazing? It didn't happen in the last go round, but maybe they'll have more luck now. I think that a successful UFO hearing with actual participants of the UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program could provide the impetus for that to happen. It could galvanize Congress to actually get something done on this to where they wouldn't have all the interference that they seem to have had thus far. So fingers crossed that happens. I'm not super optimistic, but I am hopeful, and that possibility is definitely there. Last but not least, what happens when a seal sees a lizard for the first time? That seal doesn't know what to think. He says, "What the hell is that thing?" He says, "It's still there." I keep on looking away and looking back, and it's still there. What the hell? Let me know what you think about this awesome seal meeting this lizard for the first time and everything else covered today in the comments below. Like and subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. Love to see you guys there. If you want to support the channel in a bigger way, consider grabbing a t-shirt or a coffee mug in the merch store below. Become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate your support. Also, channel members frequently get to see videos hours before everybody else. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.